Jesus, I trust in you. He demanded that these words be included in the title. Why? Because trust is the first response to the recognition of the mystery of divine mercy. The more one knows how kind God is, the more one trusts in Him, and trust is like a bucket to draw upon God's graces.
Christ promised many graces to those souls who venerated this image of divine mercy.
I am offering people a vessel with which they are to keep coming for graces to the fountain of mercy. That vessel is this image with this signature, Jesus, I trust in you.
Sister Faustina's great trust endured to the very end of her life. On October 5th, 1938, Faustina died at age 33 in this room at her convent in Krakow. Because of her humility and silence regarding her extraordinary inner life, many of those who lived and worked with Faustina for more than 13 years still believed she was no one special. Faustina's death, however, did not end the work Christ had begun in her. Her diary and the image of divine mercy are now perpetual vessels of grace, constantly reminding the world that God's mercy penetrates even into the deepest and most hopeless recesses of human misery. That misery reached a dark summit at Auschwitz during World War II. Auschwitz was the Nazi concentration camp that mass-produced unspeakable kinds of human misery. Incredibly, it was located less than 30 miles from Faustina's peaceful convent. It was in Auschwitz, while awaiting his own execution in this cell, that prisoner Stefan Jaświecki carved this image of Christ crucified into his cell wall. To Catholics, the crucifix represents the core Christian image, personifying God's limitless mercy flowing out to the lost souls of every age. Strangely, just 3 cells down from where Jaświecki carved the crucifix into the wall was another cell that would contain yet another image of mercy. But this image was alive and appeared in the form of a Franciscan priest who became mercy incarnate for this man, Francis Gajowniczek, an Auschwitz prisoner sentenced to death by starvation. Gajowniczek's haunting story about his life inside the camp is a compelling tale of deliverance. In fact, he has made sharing that story his life's work.
I said to him before we left for Hyannis, you don't have to go and give this talk. It's going to be a taxing drive for you. He says, no, I want to do it. Then en route, I could see he was getting tired. It was a long drive. I said to him, we don't have to keep going. We can turn around and go back to Granby, and I'll just give your apologies. He looked at me ever so calmly and said, the debt still has to be repaid.
That debt stems from the events that took place here in 1941 in the death camp's roll call square. Francis Gajowniczek and the other prisoners of Cell Block 14 were hastily assembled at gunpoint by German SS guards. It was here Gajowniczek's name and the name of another prisoner, number 16670, were forever and inseparably linked. Number 16670's real name was Raymond Kolbe. Like Sister Faustina, Kolbe had been on a spiritual journey, one that would come to a dramatic end in this German death camp. This journey that brought him to Auschwitz for his brief but inconceivable encounter with Francis Gajowniczek began when Kolbe was just 10 years old.
He was a very lively boy, and a very good boy, but at the same time mischievous. And apparently he exasperated his mother on one occasion, and Maria Kolbe said, threw up her arms and said, Ramanduccio, which is a term of endearment. Little Raymond, whatever's going to become of you. And there was something in her voice, but also it was the grace of God that hit him, obviously. what is going to become of me?
Pondering that question shook 10-year-old Raymond to his very core. A few days later, while he prayed alone here at this side altar in his village church of St. Matthew in Pabianice, Poland, the Virgin Mary appeared to little Raymond. The Mother of God emerged from this painting of herself, resplendent in light, clothed as a majestic queen. In her hands, which she extended to Raymond, she held 2 crowns.
She offered him a white crown of purity and a red crown of martyrdom, and she said to him, which of these crowns do you want for the rest of your life? The white crown of purity or the red crown of martyrdom? With all the gusto and enthusiasm of a 10-year-old, he says, give me them both.
That apparition of the Virgin Mary would not only be the defining moment that determined the course of Raymond Kolbe's life, but it also contained a prophecy indicating an unnatural and cruel death.
And Maria said that she was convinced that this was a true apparition because of the great change that took place in him. He became more serious beyond his years, much more obedient, and not apparently nearly as mischievous as he was before.
6 years later, inspired by the preaching of 2 Franciscan missionaries, 16-year-old Raymond entered the conventual Franciscan order. There he received his habit, took the religious name Maximilian, and started a life befitting the prophecy of the white crown of purity. Beginning in 1912, the highly intelligent Kolbe began studying for the priesthood in Rome, eventually earning doctorate degrees in both philosophy and theology. Because of the enormous impact of the Virgin Mary's appearance to Kolbe as a child, Maximilian's devotion to the Mother of Christ became central to his spirituality. He was convinced that the shortest, surest way to conversion and personal sanctification was consecrating oneself to God through Mary. It was in Rome in 1917, while still a seminarian, that Kolbe was inspired to form a religious movement, a spiritual army of Catholics consecrated to the Mother of God, under her title of the Immaculate Conception. He called this movement the Militia Immaculatae, or MI. It would devote itself to worldwide evangelization by dedicating itself to Christ through Mary. In 1919, the newly ordained Father Maximilian left Rome and returned to Poland. While teaching in Krakow, Kolbe immediately began forming small MI prayer groups consisting of dedicated lay people. By 1922, anxious to accomplish still more for the Immaculata, the 28-year-old priest looked for a more effective way to flood Poland with Christ's gospel. He soon discovered that opportunity by publishing a religious magazine.
He went to his provincial to ask permission to do this, and the provincial said, well, we cannot afford to do that. And Kolbe promised him, you wouldn't have to pay anything, I'll raise the money for it. And so he was given permission to start the magazine on condition that the friary and the province would not have to pay any of the bills. Kolbe would have to raise all the money himself. And of course he did.
His weekly publication, The Night of the Immaculata, quickly became so popular that by 1927, Father Maximilian built an evangelization center near Warsaw called Niepokalanów, or City of the Immaculata. Here Kolbe organized a growing number of Franciscan priests and brothers to write and publish the newspaper.
Lubił przytaczać łacińskie.
He liked to quote a Latin proverb, Faustina lente, hurry up slowly. He would say, my beloved brothers, souls are waiting for the fruit of our labors.